Now, I'd just like to bring in the increasing use of mobile devices to the same discussion. In fact, it's another impact on the policy and procedures and security that an organisation has, because at the moment we're quite used, mostly using cloud applications on desktops, aren't we? But very soon, most of it's going to go mobile. So what extra things are going to have to be considered?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that we are already using cloud on mobile.
I'm sure you already are, but you know it's going to go completely there, isn't it?
But because most telcos are looking at clouds as an opportunity to retain the customer base. You know, because the traditional telco business is under attack by all sorts of things, including the internet and so on. So they see cloud as an opportunity. So having kind of value-add services, you know, around the cloud type of service is very interesting to them. So we're going to see lots of apps. Now, one of the challenges, in particular in the enterprise space, but that's also true to a certain extent for the consumers. But in the enterprise space, when you start to access common services from different platforms, who's in charge of the coordination? You were talking about data management challenges. Who's in charge of making sure that whatever you do from any of the clients remains consistent with how things need to be managed for one application, across applications? You know, what about security policies? You know, how does it apply? How can you enforce it on multiple devices? Now, but we also have to think about new services that are enabled with the introduction of mobile devices. Look at video services on the consumer side. A lot of the telco service providers are talking about triple play services, you know, where there is a continuity of services across devices. Very exciting. Similar things can happen from enterprise data management perspective. So whatever you do on your mobile device gets reflected on the other potential device that you're using, or maybe not yours, but your colleague, if you're part of the same shared, secured group of work. You know, so there's all sorts of things. So am I describing something that already exists through some software packages? Yes. You know, I'm not going to name a few of them, but there's quite a few around. But the big thing is, you know, I don't have to manage it myself. You know, I don't have to enable those things myself. Now I can rely on a third party to do it for me. So that's the key. But so I think the introduction.
You have to excuse my sarcasm, but as much as I think you've given a very visionary answer, you know, today with my phone and my network provider, I'd be quite happy to receive a phone call. Yeah? There's enough black spots that, you know, I don't even achieve that.
You're not even on AT&T.
I'm not. A very famous French provider, actually.
Oh, really?
Let's not get too specific.
No, come on.
Oh my God.
Now we've offended the French and the religious people.
It wasn't you. I think we're off camera.
Well,
at this
I think you know what you're saying here is a reliability thing, isn't it? A little point I just wanted to bring up, the fact that the use of cloud is being compared by many people, like Nicholas Carr, for example, to the way that the electricity network developed 100 years ago. Of course, electricity is a ubiquitous thing that very rarely goes down. But broadband and web access is not quite like that yet.
So to pick up on that, if I may, you know, but being serious about mobile, is clearly it has got a great future, and we absolutely will start using cloud-based applications using mobile.
Yeah.
But certainly, in my opinion, you know, the reliability of mobile, the speed of mobile, is, you know, a world of difference to what we receive today on broadband.
Well, if you expect to do the same thing on a mobile device than you do on your terminal, I think you've got to reset your expectations as well.
Of course.
Okay, so yes, I totally agree that none of the networks today, whether it's wired or wireless, are really prepared to cope with the flow of information that cloud would potentially generate. You know, we were talking early on about what it takes to protect data. You know, well, never underestimate the bandwidth of a FedEx man, all right? Because when you have to shift a lot of data, sometimes it's about carrying the disk drives to your service provider. So similar things will still need to happen. Now, you can see that in the telco space, there's going to be evolutions in the technology for the carriers to have a lot more flexibility, to have more roaming capability, to jump from 3G to WiMAX to YXX, moving forward. You know, software radios are around the corner. So real LTE is bubbling up. So you're going to get there. But if you ask me, are wireless networks are going to be as powerful, as efficient as wired networks? No, never. You know, but they are complementary technologies. They got to be integrated together. You know, and cloud service providers would be foolish to not take advantage of that. So that's really where I'm coming from. Are there bottlenecks? Are there hurdles today for integration, for security, for reliability of services? Yes. These have to be overcome. This is all part of the success story that has to be built for cloud. If that doesn't happen,
Absolutely.
to your point, yes.
So I'd like to add a couple of things. I mean, I think what we're really talking about is the mobile paradigm shift. If we look back at the Morgan Stanley State of the Internet report for Q1 this year, they really look at the growth of PCs and mobile. And they don't even talk about the cloud as a paradigm shift. They say the internet age, and then they say the mobile age. And I think if we recognise mobile as a paradigm shift and as cloud as an enabling technology within mobile, because there's no storage on this device, basically, and it only can communicate with the internet. It's not going to communicate with your desktop in your office, because that's what you used to do in the old days. You used to put your PDA in the dock, and and then you take away your emails, and I mean, those were the days, weren't they?
Good times, yeah.
So I think what we need to recognise is we're going through a paradigm shift, and there are technical hurdles to address, definitely. But what is really interesting is that the mobile space is growing massively, and especially in developing countries. What we don't necessarily recognise here is how important mobile is in developing countries when they don't have PCs, but they can have subsidised handsets from telcos.
Well, they're going to jump straight over the wired
Yes.
aspect of it, aren't they?
Absolutely. But again, there are issues with devices. There are less issues with mobile devices, I think, than SaaS, because there's it has to be attached to a corporate network. It's got a SIM. Somebody's got to buy it and pay for it. So from that perspective, I think there are less security issues.
So again, I can only agree with you. I think that the IT vendor industry is very poor at doing is we continually talking about what's about to come the next 2 to 3 years, and undoubtedly will come. Maybe the time frames changes, but the vision that we paint will be reality. But I think for many of you members today, they're thinking of considering going to software as a service for the first time.
Yes.
Yeah, and they're more focused about today connectivity issues, broadband issues, rather than the mobile.
Well,
undoubtedly, some of them are, but I think it's the minority.
So we work in 3 territories. So just from a territory perspective, what's really interesting is that the UK now doesn't see connectivity as a big objection to SaaS, but in South Africa they do, because they think their internet is circa UK year 2000. So when 512 was normal and 2 meg was great and really expensive. So I think the connectivity issues have gone away. I think the security issues are still here. I think we as an industry haven't been good at producing usable standards, and there is some stuff coming out of the CSA this year, which is going to be great for standardizing what makes a good cloud and a secure cloud, and we need those standards. But we've also got to enable people to procure stuff securely. We're going through a massive ISO 27001 process on our actual data center operations, not just our finance or accounting functions, taking the rubbish out, like so many SaaS 70. But, and we own a lot of data center equipment, and we do a lot of stuff really, really well. But yet you can be compared to somebody who uses EC2 or some shoddy, shared hosting provider. We need better standards, because we need to empower people to make the judgments. So it's our own fault as an industry.
I would further extend the challenge of the overall networking technology stack to support the successful deployment of cloud services, and SaaS included. I think network, to a very large extent, is the poor child of cloud at the moment, because we've all focused on CPU on demand. We're all focused on enabling software platforms, to be dynamically allocated, etc. Similarly for storage. But that thing in between called storage, and whether you look at private cloud implementations or public cloud, there's that little thing in between called network. And very often the pipes are not either big enough, not allocated properly to do the right job. There is not enough traffic intelligence or traffic management intelligence to look into what needs to be done for the cloud. So those problems get exacerbated when you go to mobile, obviously.
Absolutely.
But so the reality is that all the efforts that have been done to make sure that the technology layers that are exciting technology layers for the cloud, starting from the bottom of storage, moving up the stack to the applications, we need to include network in the process. Because if we look at what you were talking about, data management issues, data remains I would say a persistent challenge, whichever cloud domain you're looking at. When you need to move some data from A to B, network is usually in between. And if network cannot be used as a serviceable part of the cloud stack, then you have an issue. So can network improve? Yes. Can network be more involved in the delivery of data? Yes. Can network be optimized for specific data type or application types? Yes. And in fact, telcos are already doing that to a certain extent for the small applications that they are enabling for their devices. When they allow you to search for specific data that your children want to have access to see who's the latest singer on the charts, that's all about the same process. What we need to do is to have a more general approach for enabling other types of applications to also benefit of the same enhancements.